Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Ultimate TV. Today we'll be talking about when's enough in your business. Make sure you stay tuned after the break to find out more about estate planning, financial planning, succession planning, everything planning. Stay tuned more after the break. Welcome back, everyone. We've got Michael here for another edition.
Well, we were laughing, weren't we, as you introduced this show, because how many business owners get into business and you go, so when are you getting out? And they kind of go, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm in this thing, and by the time I'm 85, I'll probably still be
Well,
here.
who knows? That might be our retirement age when we retire.
When we retire. But it is a really good point you made, and when we were talking before you brought on the show, and you're saying, hold on, we spend a lot of time planning the day-to-day activities of our business and business structures you help people with, but when's enough going to be enough? When is your exit strategy, and how do you know how much you're going to need for that exit strategy when you're actually going to be satisfied?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're always going, oh, just a little bit more.
It's just like, well, I'm in a similar predicament. Do we sell our investment property? Do we just wait for the market to go up that little bit more? Or is the rental return going to come back to what it used to be or a little bit more? It's always chasing. Could you be potentially chasing a dead horse? Who knows? But more the fact is, especially when in business, when you speak with your accountant and understand your goals of where you want to head to, that conversation becomes a whole lot easier. Reason being is because you've got that end in mind. Let's say you start a business today and you say you come to me to set everything up for you, and what's the best structure for me to sell this business in 15 years' time or more? Cool. We discuss with all that. Is the family trust the best option for their business? Do they just want to keep things really simple and maybe be a sole trader? Is that the best for their situation? This is what we look at. What's the best for your particular situation?
I know, going through and selling businesses myself, you suddenly realize how much the business was paying for, because you tend not to take those huge salaries because you kind of offset that and get the business buying things and paying for fuel. And what shocked me on I think the first business sale was when I suddenly went back and went, hold on, well, I've got to pay for all this.
Yes, exactly right.
So
we want the business to pay for as much as we can.
we do, and then when you sell it, it's all, oh no, I have to pay for everything. So when you're looking and you're talking with your clients and you're setting that end goal in mind, does that really come, that financial planning from your point of view is, okay, how much do you need to live? And what are some of the questions you start asking people about how much money they need for their living?
Yeah, exactly. So we've got a very close relationship with a financial planner friend of ours, and we get David on board in those meetings.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter if you're 20, 30, 40, 50 years of age, whatever it may be, you've always got to plan for your retirement. And yes, you can do a lot more riskier things in your younger years from what he advises me, whereas later in life you kind of want a bit more conservative. And that all comes down to life expectancy and your actual cost of living.
Yeah.
So if you've got if you love dining out 3-4 times a week, if you like driving the luxury cars, if you've got a fancy house in the inner city suburbs, all that type of stuff really comes into play with what's going to happen after you exit your business. And those conversations are tough because sometimes they may be 30 or 40 years in advance.
And you really, you can only talk in like today's money.
That's right.
So really what you're trying to do is say, okay, so what is your lifestyle when you retire? What is it you're trying to maintain for yourself? And then trying to cost that out for them in today's money, and then trying to future-proof that. How do you do that? Because we hear people have put money aside, and they, 20, 30 years ago, that was a lot of money.
Yes.
And now they're going, oops.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And that's why I'm pretty big on getting a financial planner on board when it comes to talking about these things, because you're exactly right. 10 years ago just over 10 years ago when I graduated uni, salaries were $30,000 for a graduate accountant. Now they're 45, 50,000. So even that time it's increased. But then wages apart from that haven't really gone up because of our economy.
Yes.
And okay, so I'm not getting as much super in from my employer, or if you're self-employed,
Point.
I'd rather, because all these costs are going up, I can't afford to put extra money into super. So that's where speaking with your accountant and the financial planner in a combination
Yep.
really ensures that your current spending habits mimic what you want to do for later on in life. So if you want to do these $20,000 cruises 5 times a year,
Yes.
plus live, plus pay, well, you're hoping in retirement you're not going to have a mortgage, but
That's
unfortunately
true.
a lot of retirees do.
That's a tough thing to
It
go into
definitely is.
retirement with. A
Definitely
mortgage.
is. I've got a few business owner clients who are nearing retirement age, still with $200,000-300,000 left on their mortgage. And you ask the question why, because a lot of them are new clients to us. You ask them why,
Yeah.
and they said, I had to remortgage the house for the business. Or was that the best option? Had they have seen their accountant and financial planner, they would have gone, maybe it's not the best option, but you can't do anything after the fact.
Does this mean that when you get trapped in these situations for whatever reason, your retirement may not be happening when you want it? This is now going to
Exactly.
prolong your working life
Yep.
itself?
Exactly right. So your succession plan of retiring at 50 years of age, selling your business, may go all the way over to 65, just because of, well, as we can see when we had the global financial crisis, a lot of people that I know, their superannuation balances drastically decreased, and they're back in the workforce for another 10 years when they were hoping on I'm going to retire next year.
So, Bobby, when you look at things like that, we look at that to start off with, how does an accountant, and obviously you bring the financial planner, but what are some of the strategies you bring to the table to try and help future-proof that, to secure people? I mean, you talked about being risky when you're young and more conservative when you're older.
Well, regarding risk adverse and risk takers, let's talk about the business in itself.
Yes.
Your business is the biggest valued asset in your business operation, the actual goodwill of the business. So by doing that, looking at that on a yearly, 6-monthly basis, you can acknowledge to know, okay, what's my business worth at this point in time? If you're a sole trader, probably nothing, because you just, 9 times out of 10, you're just working for yourself. You may have a couple of employees or anything like that, but effectively you're your own, you're the business.
You might sell it for 1 time's turnover or something like that.
Exactly
if you're lucky.
right, exactly. So the more employees you have, the less you get yourself away from the business, which does take time, the more your business is valued. Because of the fact that if somebody wants to buy it, do I want to go in and work in the business? They've got that option. They can sack 1 or 2 staff or whatever it may be.
Yes.
Or do I just want to have this business churning and burning as I've purchased it?
It was interesting, we just went out to Beverley, which is about a 2-hour drive east of here, and met a lovely lady, Daphne, and she owns the Freemasons Tavern out there. And she doesn't run it, she's got a leasee running it. So her husband bought it, but that's it. It is a business.
Yeah.
The only time she steps in there is to sit and have a drink and
Yes.
admire the new refit they've done. But yeah, the leasee runs it, and she takes whatever she's getting paid from that. So is that what you're saying, is you get more options? She would have the choice of running it or not running it. And if you can do that, your business increases in value?
Well, pretty much, because of the fact that what's your return on investment you're getting from that business? So for Daphne, the business is residual income for her. She wakes up and she's getting paid because she's getting paid the leasee fees and everything like that. Pretty much like an investment property, effectively, or shares with your dividends and everything like that. It's effectively the earning money while you sleep. So that's a really good analogy you can put to that.
It's a great way to retire.
Yeah, and that's exactly what a lot of business owners come to me and go, how do I build this up so I don't have to be in the business, and if I wanted to sell, it's there to sell without me physically being in the business. And like we said, it does take time, but you will get there.
That's an interesting transition from an owner-operator to managed operator type operation. what are the steps? How do people get on that journey? Is there control issues they've got to get over? Is there what type of things do you find? What challenges do you find around that?
Well, I'll give us as an example. So when I
Yes.
first started, it was just myself, and then Crystal came on board.
Yep.
Then we've got Tegan. Now we've got Vicky. All these other little steps to put in place, which has taken us nearly 3 years to get to do, to ensure that my time is better used to manage the business, drum up new clients, and do the more technical work rather than the lower end accounting stuff, which
Yep.
I employ graduate accountants for.
Yep.
And I don't answer the phones anymore because we have an administration person. And I don't manage the practice because that's Crystal's role. So all these things have taken us 3 years to get to.
I'm smiling because I know you, and does Bobby give up that?
Well,
Control I'm on about.
if you ask Crystal, very easily. And that's what it should be.
Right.
You should take away that controlling aspect of your hat off.
Yeah.
Reason being is because if you're wearing too many hats, you've got a long to-do list every single day, which you're potentially wasting time doing for menial tasks that sort of, I don't want to say below your I guess, job description, but I will say below your job description. Why are you sending email confirmation for client bookings or something like that? Well, my time is better off. Let's talk to that client and see some strategies of how they can better their business or better their minimise their tax or better their tax deduction, whatever it may be. That 5 minutes is better worth my time doing that rather than drafting an email to do confirm a booking, you know?
So the first steps of one's, obviously there's new skill sets to be learned, but the first steps of changing is to actually get the business so it can start employing other people.
Yes.
And the more people it employs, then the less hands-on you're going to do, and the more, actual management,
That's
strategic management
Exactly
of the
right.
business.
So with myself as an example, again, I'm still seeing a lot of clients, which I love doing. So I love doing that, and I wouldn't mind getting, some of them to junior staff members or whatever it may be. But until that day comes, I'm very happy to do it. So I love doing it. As you guys know, I love talking.
Yes.
So doing that is fantastic.
Yeah.
But then I also love critiquing work to ensure that my staff get trained better. They understand the process better, and they understand what skills they need to work on to better themselves professionally. So that's something that I'm big on. So I do invest a lot of time with reviewing work, as I should as the tax agent, reviewing work to a finer detail. It may be overkill, but I think for me, as a perfectionist side of things, as much as people don't know what accountants do, we have our spreadsheets and we have our work papers and everything like that. And I say to Tegan, I said, if you're doing a job, you need to do it so someone below you understands what you're doing every single time, because of the fact that she may leave.
Yes.
And that's something else which you need to look at in your business for succession planning, key staff leaving potentially or not wanting to buy in your business.
Yes.
So all those things come into play to ensure that her role is better professionally for herself.
So you just mentioned a couple of things there about some of the behind the scenes that we don't see accountants do. But what I'm hearing now is you are getting policies and procedures and systems into your business so somebody else could step into somebody's role. How challenging is that to do that simultaneously in a growth business like yourselves?
Yeah, so I'll give us an example again. So Vicky, our new administrative staff member, we have an office manual to do a lot of the admin tasks.
Right.
Now, that wasn't written overnight.
No.
We've got.
You didn't get it off a shelf?
Well, not off the shelf, no, because, there are office manuals that you can get off the shelf, but they're not going to be pertinent just to your business.
No.
You can get the cookie cutter plans, definitely. Every industry has cookie cutter plans. I'm sure in the media industry there's cookie cutter videography and everything
Yes,
like
there
that,
is.
So it's no different to us. So Crystal and Tegan together, Crystal started it, then Tegan in conjunction with Crystal adapted to it to make it better. So instead of just being words, we've got screenshots of the actual screen
Oh.
to show what you're clicking and
Yes.
what that does and everything like that. We haven't got to the video route yet, but
No.
we may do. But yeah, that's something that was in development. So our new admin staff member, whenever that person came aboard, which is in this case is Vicky, understands what's going on with the process without us being there.
So, just listening to you talk then, have you made a conscious decision to allow staff to have a percentage of time to allow to develop and grow this manual? Because obviously that is an administrative task that may, as people look, you're not getting paid by a client to do now.
Correct. So this is stuff which is all done after hours by Crystal, and then we take the hit on employing staff members to understand that manual and better the processes in that manual.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just something that it is may look like a dead cost, but it is something which is necessary to build systems into your business.
Because the payoff at the end is not only more efficient and
Exactly
well-trained
right.
staff, you're actually building, because when I've looked at companies that have proper policies and procedure manuals and systems, that is the core inside that increases their actual value.
Exactly right. So whether you're in procurement, whether you're a warehouse manager, you know, you've got systems of when the goods arrive. What do you do after that? Well, do you need to have a supervisor standing over your shoulder every 30 seconds to go, well, this is what we do next, this is what we do next, for 6 months of the time until you learn it all?
Yes.
No, well, we've got office manual, we've got procedures here, this is our packing criteria. So anyone that comes into that business knows goods inwards and goods outwards without having an external person there. And how much time would that save? One, you're not saving time,
Yes.
but two, you're saving double in wages. So if you own a warehouse style business like that, then that's something which, if you haven't got in place, I suggest to do, because a lot of these things get overlooked. They go, oh no, I know how to do it. Well, that's fine. Well, what happens when that's a one-man band sole trader? What happens when you get an employee?
Yes.
And you're too busy to teach them how to do things, which we've seen. We've had a hard task in our business because I'm running around doing a lot of stuff.
Yes.
And I can't train our staff member as much as I should be, which is another system which we have now put in place.
Right. So these systems, you just said, they're not built overnight. They're things that are very organic. And are you flexible enough, and do you recommend people who are flexible enough to actually continue to improve and grow those systems?
Of course.
And how do you, I suppose, not indoctrinate, but how do you get that culture into staff that they know they've got the permission to say, hey, I think we could do this a little bit different, and I want to add this to the manual?
You had said it before, it's the company culture. It's how you communicate with your staff to really, I guess, be a part of the business growth process, especially when you are a small business. You value, you're not a thousand employee stock exchange listed company, you know?
Yes.
So you've got maybe 5 to 10 to maybe even 20 employees, but those 5 to 10 to 20 employees all have their own role, and they know how to do, okay, I don't want to be afraid to tell my boss, hey, maybe if we do this, that'll, one, increase your profit, or two, make better efficiency. So by doing that, by having that, I guess, communication policy, open door, I guess you would call it, to your staff, they know that they can come to you and say, hey, listen, Bobby, I've got a good idea. I've got an idea. Can you please let me know if it's good or not? Tegan's done that multiple times, and we've implemented those things, because at the ground level, that's where the staff are. You're too busy managing the business and drumming up new clients, whatever it may be, but your employed staff, they're the ones actually working in it. And they go, hey, how can we better this?
So it is really a culture.
Yeah.
And what benefit do you believe that these systems bring to growing a business, and in particular to the customer experience they have then with your company?
And that's the thing, customer experience. By having no systems, nobody knows what they're doing at what point in time and where. Having these systems in place ensure that for us, as soon as someone walks in the door, greeted, coffee, come in the boardroom, would you like anything else? And then I do the appointment, or Tegan does the appointment, whatever it may be. And then we've got the exit process. Great, here's the EFTPOS machine, or here's our bank details.
Yes.
payment for service. And then after the fact, cool, once it's been reviewed by one of our other staff, even my work gets reviewed. So just in case I've missed something, you know,
Ooh.
always got to cross your T's and dot the I's.
Oh, that's an interesting thing you do. So even the boss gets reviewed.
I don't know everything. I may miss something. I may get some wrong bank details, or I may, and this is what I really value Tegan for, is, hey, Bobby, have you looked at this? What about claiming this as a deduction? Or why can't we? And that's where the training process in our business comes down to. And then after the review process is done, email to the admin, copy of the tax return, and invoice sent to the customer.
I think that's real gold in there. A lot of highly successful people that you speak to have a very similar, they might do it slightly different ways, but they like being critiqued,
Yes.
whether that's from mentors, but they love their staff to bring ideas and check and say, well, why did you do that? Well, I don't understand.
Yes.
Because it could be an opportunity to train a staff member.
Exactly.
But then it could be an opportunity to go, what a great idea. Yeah, that's just blindingly obvious, because we do all get, well, I call it store blind in our businesses, don't we? We do the same thing over and over and over, and we can actually miss things.
Yep. So leading back to our goodwill side of the business, having these systems in place, imagine a potential buyer coming into let's look at a coffee shop, for example, a potential buyer coming in, how are the customers being seated? How are the orders being taken? What's the ordering process? What's the token slip that's getting sent to the kitchen or the barista for the coffee or for the brunch order?
Yes.
All these types of things come into play. And then the buyer may walk past the kitchen and go, okay, how are they housing things? How are things labelled? How is the, would you call it a head chef in a cafe? But let's call it head chef.
Yeah.
How's the head chef talking with the apprentice chef who's talking with the dishwasher? How is everything working in the back room to ensure that plate of food gets sent to the customer in, 1, good quality, 2, a good time frame, and 3, tasty? All those types of things.
Is this why we've seen the coffee shops that are franchised and got these really stringent systems, why they are successful?
Exactly right. They've got their manuals to go, this is how we make this coffee, this is how we make that coffee, this is how we make that piece of toast.
Yeah, but I bet they do.
Exactly right. All these things, they have a policy. This is how we dust the cocoa on top of the cappuccinos. All that type of stuff. This is how we deal with inventory coming in. This is how we tick it off the list. This is how we store it in the cool room. All these things, because there's policies and procedures for everything that will ensure that your efficiency is maximised. Therefore, potentially costs are minimised. We'll call it, let's look at the cafe or restaurant, is fresh produce not going off, wages not getting through the roof.
Yes.
And there are very good software that deals with wages, primarily, not really the fresh goods, but you kind of have, exactly. That's something which you really need to,
especially in
kitchen
cafes
staff.
with rostering and things like that.
Oh, yes.
There's rostering programs out there that you can actually measure.
So imagine if you've got these software in place in conjunction with your bookkeeping, in conjunction with your payroll software. All these things come in place. You've got your rostering, that links to your payroll software, that links to your bookkeeping software. The bookkeeping and payroll may be one and the same, but sometimes they're not. But your rostering system, imagine having 5 staff on a dead day. Well, how do you change that? How do you know which days of the week are quiet and which are busy? And you know, the software that's out there that you can produce data over a 6-month future forecast of who you want working at what point in time. And you know what your wage bill for that week will be. So that allows you to budget, and that allows you to go, okay, what's with that wage bill, how much should we be turning over in revenue? And if we're not turning over that much in revenue, if we're not selling 100 coffees a day, whatever it may be, we're not making any money. So imagine having a potential business buyer coming into your business with all these systems in place that you know we forecasted our profit for the potential profit for the next 6 months.
Yes.
How much do you want for your business? Great, I'm willing to pay for that because you've got these systems in place. You've got these procedures. You've got the staff under control. They know what each task that they're doing at any point in time.
And I suppose that is when you consult with people, because we're talking about when is enough and enough, when they're going to get out. And I've heard quite often people may buy a coffee shop or they'll buy a news agency and they'll say, well, I borrowed the $1 million, whatever it is. And the aim is the business not only just pay them wages, but to pay the $1 million off, then sell it, and that's their $1 million that they go bank and walk away. By having these systems as an accountant, and there may be different criteria,
Yes.
is this now allowing you to project, look, you wanted to retire at 55,
Yep.
I got some bad news for you.
Yep, exactly.
Or I've got some terrific news for you. Is this where you really start to play and look and model?
This is all about the cash flow planning. This is all about the goodwill planning. And by having these systems in place and allowing us to build those numbers up. So let's say you came to me and go, Bobby, I need $1 million when I turn 55 to last me 20 years or 30 years or whatever it is. Hopefully more, but you know, that's what we need. Because we've budgeted one good holiday a year, we've budgeted still living comfortably in our well-off suburb home, we still like dining out, we still like driving luxury cars. So we want to be able to afford these things.
Bobby's saying get a bit more money, Michael.
So if you want to have all these niceties in life at retirement age, what do you need to do now to ensure that you get that or more?
Yes.
And that's what a lot of people forget. They start a business or they buy a business and they just go, I'm just going to work in the business. Great. Okay, that's fine. But you've only got X amount of hours in the day. If it's only going to be you, or if it's only going to be you and your wife or partner or whatever it may be, how long is that going to last you? How long are you going to, maximize your income earning capacity?
And I think you said an interesting thing there. When you start planning your retirement, and we put a million aside, I jokingly said that's probably not going to be enough. It's probably not going to be enough. I mean, you've met my wife, Kathy. But it's true. You go one holiday, this, and you go, but hold on, you can't spend. So if you've got $1 million in, say it's interest, and say you got 5%, what's that, 50,000 a year on it, you suddenly go, oops, I need $2 million then because I want 100,000 a year. But then Bobby's going to come along and say, yeah, but if you spend the whole amount, what happens in 10 years from now? Because $2 million will not, $100,000 a year in 10 years' time is going to be back down to 50,000. Yes. You're going to end up in the old people's home with no money.
All these factors you've got to put in your place. And that's why I really ensure that people talk to their financial planner because they know a lot of things that accountants don't deal with. They talk about what types of shares will we invest in, what property should we invest in, all those types of intricate details which accountants don't deal with on a daily basis. So that's why you see your financial planner. Yes. And if you are, or it doesn't matter if you run your own business or if you're just on wages, how can you maximize your income earning via an accountant's level and accountant's point of view? How can you maximize that to ensure that the advice that your financial planner gave you is in line and you're able to achieve those goals?
So I guess if we're wrapping this show up, your real advice is when you're starting a business or getting into employment, have a look at when you want to retire and how much you want to retire with, and start working. Use someone like yourself in conjunction with like your financial planner.
Exactly.
And reverse engineer the whole thing.
Reverse engineering, I was just going to say that because you never know when the exit's going to come. Life happens. So make sure that you understand where your goals are and you know where you're going to head.